There are a lot of folks out there that say listening is the most important sales skill. I disagree.
Mm.
The most important sales skill is the art of asking thoughtful, insightful questions. So there's something meaningful to listen to. See, if we're
Mm.
not adept at asking questions that engage emotion, that open up doors for them to share information with us, they'll listen to. So
That's a good.
step
That's a good.
one is crafting the right questions.
Please welcome America's service sales coach, Joe Crisara.
Welcome to the Service MVP Podcast, the show that helps home service professionals master high-value sales, build stronger client relationships, and grow their business like never before. Join industry experts as they share real strategies that drive results. If you're ready to level up your service game, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
It's the Service MVP Podcast.
Thank you for listening and watching the Service MVP Podcast. I want to give you a copy of my free book. Just click on the link below in the description, and one will be sent to you from me personally. Thank you so much for listening. Welcome to the Service MVP Podcast. My name is Joe Crisara, America's service sales coach. And we have with us a very special guest. His name is Lee Salz, and he has written a new book called the First Meeting Differentiator. Lee, welcome to our program today.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
Well, he's always done transforming sales-focused discovery. And, the biggest thing I like about Lee is he is right up my alley. If you guys know me, you know that I would love a guy like Lee because he is a contrarian, a sales contrarian. He tries to find out what the normal salesperson would do. And he says, what we got to do is not do the same thing a normal person would do. Let's do something the opposite, right?
Are you saying we should be abnormal?
Yeah, well, I think I think that's really needed. I think hopefully all of us are unique and we have authenticity. And so I think that's what your book brings. So let's talk about why you wrote this book about the First
Okay,
Meeting Differentiator. Tell us a little bit about that first.
sure. All right. Well, that's a great place to start. And, that question's normally coupled with a second one, right? For all the folks watching our interview, why should I read it? Right. And so if you're smiling, because that's precisely what you're thinking, they're going to love chapter 5 on empathetic expertise, which dives deep into the art of emotionally connecting with your buyers to energize deals.
Mm.
There's countless studies that have shown that the first meeting is absolutely critical when it comes to win rates. First meeting, I like to say, and I talk about this a lot in the book, the first meeting is the deal foundation. If it's weak, the deal's weak. What I found is most companies don't have a clearly defined, repeatable strategy for handling first meetings. You know what they do, Joe? I'm sure you see this all the time. They just assume they're salespeople. They bring on, just have this mastery. You know how to handle that meeting. Ask some questions. Tell them about our stuff. That assumption is deeply flawed and it causes sales organizations to underperform. But this isn't new. This was just as true a century ago as it is today, and it's going to remain true for generations to come because the principles of human connection, trust building, and differentiation are timeless. So,
Mm.
whether your first meeting lasts 15 minutes or 2 hours, there are non negotiable elements that must be addressed, right? You need to qualify the deal. Of course, you got to differentiate what and how you sell, and you need to create emotional engagement. That's why I wrote the First Meeting Differentiator to give executives, salespeople, an implementable methodology to create a first meeting framework. Joe,
I think.
and something I've noticed, and I'm sure you've seen this as well. There's
Mhm.
a gazillion books written on the subject of prospecting, getting the meeting, right? Well, what happens when you land the meeting? Where are the books that help you take the deal forward? Didn't exist. You can
Yeah,
go on
yeah.
Amazon, go find them. That's why I put this book together. It's a structured step-by-step guide to mastering the first meeting.
Yeah, I think there's obviously there's a lot of even going back as far as for our era, like Dale Carnegie training and things like that, on how to connect with people and how to find a meaningful relationship with people. And
Yes.
I think everybody who's successful knows that it's the people in your life. Who's it said, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. I think there's
That's
definitely
true.
there's a truth to that. Lee, tell us a little bit about how does somebody in that first meeting? I do agree that first meeting you can create this halo effect. I call it.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about some of the dive into this a little bit more about
Yeah.
either whether it's chapter 5 and the emotional, because I really believe in that emotional intelligence and that part of it there. You want to, whichever
Yeah.
wherever you want to start with that, but give us an idea what that looks like for the average person who is just listening to this for the first time.
So you mentioned chapter 5, so let's jump into it. It's on empathetic expertise. It's how to engage emotion when selling.
Mhm.
Now, Joe, I'm going to go out on a limb here. There's an expression I'm going to share with you, and I'm going to guess you've heard it 4 million times. You ready?
Let's go.
People buy based on emotion and justify their decisions with logic. Did I
Hmm.
get it right? 4 million?
You nailed this. 4 million one now.
4 million one. There you go. Which means I didn't make it up. Now
Hmm.
find a salesperson that actually puts that concept into practice. If
Hmm.
we recorded right now 100 sales calls across all industries, all market segments, all sale types, all around the world, I'll bet you the deed to my house that 99 of that 100, not all 100, the entire conversation is logic. And so I used to scratch my head on this, Joe. I'd go, wait a minute. Every salesperson on the planet has heard people buy based on emotion, justify their decisions with logic, but no one does it. Why is that? So I finally had this epiphany. I have two sons that played college baseball. And I remember when they were first learning the game as little kids, the coaches would say, now the name of the game is hit home runs. And they'd say, got it, hit home runs. Well, that didn't happen until someone taught them how to hit home runs.
Hmm.
Nothing changed in their game until they were taught. So the epiphany I had is that we preach to salespeople. People buy based on emotion, justify their decisions with logic, but we haven't taught them how to do it. So nothing changed.
Hmm.
In this chapter, I teach you how to engage emotions in a meaningful way to energize your deal. See, if you're only having logic conversations, your deal has no life to it. Good chance it's going to fizzle out. But when you engage emotion, it changes the entire experience. Now you can almost feel a tangible energy for your deal. I'll give you an example, Joe.
Hmm.
So, a question we might ask someone is, what's the biggest challenge you face in your business today? It would be a logic question, right? A fact-based question, and they're going to give us some information as a result. But Joe, what if we ask the question this way? What's the biggest thing, that thing that has you pulling your hair out? They say, I got to get this fixed now. What is that issue? And I'll
Mhm.
bet you felt that, Joe. Even though this is hypothetical, we're just having a conversation,
Yeah, yeah,
but you
yeah. Because it's
felt
not
that, didn't you?
because you're using plain language. It doesn't sound like you're reading from a. Uh,
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like you're reading from some kind of a checklist or whatever. Like it sounds like the first question sounded like a checklist. This
Yes,
sound like you're just a human talking to another human. Like we're at a
it does.
like we're at a party or whatever kind of a thing. Just talking about stuff.
Yeah. And not only did you feel the question, you know what? You're not going to give me information back. You're going to give me color, flavor, texture. I'm going to know how you feel about what you're sharing with me. That's
Mm.
what I mean when I talk about engaging emotions. I'll give you another one. There's a
Sure.
chapter in the book based on something. You mentioned sales contrarian, something salespeople have been taught, which is you present features and benefits. Like that's what you do during the first meeting.
Hmm.
So the title of that chapter is Features, Benefits, and Boredom. See, that's what you do when you want to put people to sleep,
Yeah, it's true. I get that.
right?
Mhm.
See, here's what we're up against. So, you familiar with the name Herman Ebbinghaus?
Yeah,
Have you ever
yeah.
heard that name?
Mhm.
He was a researcher in the late 1800s and he developed what's known as the forgetting curve. And it's still valid today. And what he found is that people forget 50% of what they learned within 24 hours and remember less than 10% a week later. So if you have a 1 hour meeting, 1 hour first meeting, a week later, they remember about 6 minutes of it. Ouch. Hurts. That
That does.
hurts, right?
uh, all the hot air, and that's all you get out of it. That's crazy.
Right, right. But here's the thing. Other studies have since been done that says if you want to increase memory retention, share stories with the
Mhm.
facts embedded in them. So share emotive stories to communicate your features and benefits rather than lecture them. Say, well, this comes in blue. The benefit of that is you can get it in all these different palettes to match your organization. Ugh. Let's put
Right.
them to sleep.
Yeah.
But share us stories. People love go back to when we were kids. We loved to finish the day with mom and dad telling us a story, and we'd sit there so eagerly listening to every word. That's how people remember.
Mm.
And one of the things that I've found is that sales organizations, so let's say I buy into that story concept. Well, you take a company that's been around 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years. They've got all these stories of new clients that they've brought in, how they came to be, the challenges they had, the competitor they were with, all of these different things. But if I got hired today, how do I learn those stories?
Mm.
I'm stuck talking about features and benefits because you don't have a deal pursuit story portfolio. And I talk about this in the book as well. Sales leaders listening to this, you need to capture those historical stories in a meaningful way. And I lay out the framework to do that in the book and create a segment of your sales playbook that has these stories so that when you bring me on today, I can learn them, I can share them, just like the people from 20 years ago who brought in those deals.
Mm. That is amazing. I think that's such a great thing, and I've said, the library of stories in everything we do. It's like you're letting people experience it, and experience not just the thing that happened, but the element that man, you're inviting people to give empathy toward the story, whether it's empathy of like, man, that must have been terrible, or oh, I don't want that to happen to me, or man, that
Right.
sounds like he really solved the problem. That sounded great. Like in a way, you're kind of getting that evoking, the continued participation of the person. How does that help with that part of it there when you share a story? I think automatically they think I thought I have a story like that too, and they kind of want to share it back in a way. Does that make sense, Lee?
Yeah, you'll get that. And the other thing is it's really helpful when I feel like I'm not the only one struggling to figure this out. My peers are struggling with this too. Oh, by the way, this company helped them address it. Gives me a lot of confidence in them. So on the one hand, now I don't feel, getting back to this emotional part, I don't feel like I'm all by myself here. And I'm also experiencing confidence because you've addressed this issue for others who sat in the same seat.
Mm.
So let's talk a little bit more about this whole empathetic expertise thing. So
Yeah.
my favorite all-time television show is Law and Order. Not all the spin-offs, but the original one. And it came back a few years ago as a reboot. And I was watching this episode, and the prosecutor was very frustrated with a case. He felt like he had all the facts to win it, but he could see the jury wasn't with him. So he goes to the district attorney, he takes him through his case, and he says, the problem with your case is it's all fact, no heart, and the jury isn't buying it. All logic, no emotion, and the jury isn't buying it. So you go, oh, interesting. So attorneys are using emotion to affect jury decisions. Now, Law and Order, it always says rip from the headlines, but it's still fictional, right? I couldn't use that as a source. So for the book, I interviewed a judge, prosecutor, a litigator, and a trainer of litigators around ways that they use emotion to affect jury decisions. And the conversation was just fascinating. So the prosecutor says to me, Joe, he goes, if I have a firefighter on the stand, I'm not asking logic questions, fact based questions. I'm asking questions like, what did you feel when you entered the building? You see,
Mm.
I want the jury to feel like they were in that fire with that fireman.
Hmm.
And then he
Hmm.
goes on to say, he says, my goal with that jury is to take them on a journey from having the ability to convict to having the desire to convict. Bring this around to sales. The ability to contract with us to having the desire to contract with us. How does that happen? It's with emotion.
It is. It is. Well, this is again, I want everybody to remind us that this is Lee Salz. The book is called The First Meeting Differentiator. Oh, sorry about that. The green screen here. Here it is there. He has released, it's releasing today on Tuesday in the very first part of October, which I think is October 2nd, right? Today is it October 2nd?
Today's September 30.
September 30th. I'm sorry. So September
You're
last
jumping ahead on me.
last day of
But yes,
September.
it did release
Last
this
day of
morning.
September. I should have looked at that before I was a contrarian on that date. Anyway, one of the question I have for you, Lee, can you give us sort of like I know that we all want to read the book, and I'm pretty sure it's in here, but is there a framework so that we can stay on the highway here instead of taking? Sometimes we take exit ramps to technical knowledge, or I think every good salesperson would know that, but I think there's some newbies who are like, I just learned about, I just don't even know about the product I'm selling.
Right.
I wish I knew more about that, and they dive into the product more than the people in a way. But what is
Sure.
the framework between the balance between the solution I'm doing and the people I'm serving? That emotional balance there between logic and emotion. Or tell us a little bit about the framework if you got something for us on that.
Absolutely. So let me take a step back if I could. Most salespeople, Joe, call the first meeting with a prospect. What do they call that meeting?
The
Discovery, right?
discovery meeting. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. I'm on a mission to get rid of that meeting from the sales
Okay.
world.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that. Tell me what do we do to replace that?
Yeah.
What are we going to
Well,
replace that with?
here's why.
Mhm.
How do salespeople prepare for that meeting? I'm going to make a list of questions I'm going to ask and my message points. Great. My question that I'd love to ask salespeople is if I agree to take that meeting with you, what do I get out of it? I got 400 things on my desk to do. What do I get out of that meeting?
Mm.
And that response is a deafening silence. And then they'll go, well, I'm going to learn about my company and what we offer. Eh, That's a big fail. Here's why. There's two types of sales. And I'm going to explain that in the context of a bathroom environment, not the
Hmm.
way you're thinking. Okay, you ready, Joe?
Yeah, go ahead.
You buy toilet paper, I sell toilet paper, but you're buying toilet paper from my competitor. And I'm saying I have superior toilet paper, you should be buying it from me. That's a takeaway sale. That's
Okay.
what most of us are in that environment.
Yeah. Mhm.
The other type of sale is you buy toilet paper, I sell bidets. It's an alternative way to solve an issue. And
Mhm.
there are some salespeople in that space, but most of us are in that takeaway environment. So that means they already have a provider in place. So you're
Mhm.
reaching out to them and you're saying, put those 400 things aside, meet with me, right?
Mhm.
And I don't get anything out of that meeting because it's a discovery meeting. Guess what? I'm not taking that meeting with you.
Right, right, right.
That's the problem. That's the flaw. But if you think about the times when you've gone to the doctor, you go to the doctor for two reasons: to become wiser about your circumstances and to understand potential remedies.
Mhm.
You wouldn't go to the doctor if you thought you were a science experiment. We're going to gather all this data about Joe, all this information, but it's all for me as the doctor. You wouldn't go. That's
Mhm.
what a discovery meeting is. It's all for
Yeah,
me, nothing
it
for you.
is. It's intimidating actually. Like, I hope they don't. He's just doing all that stuff to find something. Like,
Right.
you can see the battleship coming already. Oh, I see. He's just getting all his data so he can use it against me when he tries to sell me shit. You know what I'm saying? There, it's like I feel like I'm
Yes.
being set up in a way.
Yes.
That discovery
Yes.
meeting. What do we call that meeting instead? What's a better way of
So instead of discovery, and
packaging?
I'm not going to say I came up with this expression, but I've embraced it. It's a consultation. That's what the
Okay.
medical community calls that. And if you embrace that mindset, a consultation mindset, you recognize that meeting can't just be for you. They have to get something out of it as well. There
Mhm.
has to be meaningful value there. And
That's
a lot of salespeople struggle with that. And there's a part in my book where I talk about examples of what that meaningful value is. But big picture, it's that they are going to become wiser. They're going to learn something that either helps them in their role or helps them in their business as a result of time spent with you. And I'm sure your audience likes free things, Joe, right?
Yeah, everybody. Well, it depends on what it is. Like if
Well,
it's
let me tell you what it is. I've got a free download,
Mhm.
10 ways to provide meaningful value during that first meeting. It's an excerpt from the book. And this is going to be a tough URL for everybody to remember. It's meaningfulvalue.com. You go to meaningfulvalue.com and you can download 10 ways to provide meaningful value during that first meeting. Now, here's the thing, Joe. Once we define,
Meaningfulvalue.com. Everybody go there right now. Don't
yeah,
delay. Go there now. It's you'll have actual consultation in that document, so you'll be able to have some consultation for yourself there
yes,
when you get there.
yes.
Go ahead, Lee. I'm sorry.
So, Joe, then once you define that meaningful value, now you fold this into your prospecting messaging because you know their perceptions don't get nothing out of that meeting. So, in your messaging, you say, Joe, when we get together, I'll share with you a tactic, a strategy, whatever it is, a best practice operations leaders are using to creatively reduce costs. Oh, I'm going to get something out of this meeting. I'll take it. I'll be there. Completely changes that experience.
Hmm. That's amazing. Well, I can't
So now
wait.
let's talk about how to put that. You asked me about the framework,
Yeah, tell me what the framework was. Go back to that again. Yeah.
right? So we talked about how do we prepare for that first meeting? Well, let me come up with my questions and let me come up with the information I'm going to share. Well, there's an infinite number of questions you could ask, but only so many someone's going to tolerate. You can talk about your company and what you offer for 16 hours. What's giving you a 16-hour meeting? I don't think you'd want one anyway.
No.
So what I take you through in the book, and one of the things you'll find is the book is chock full of stories, relatable stories, but also workshops with downloads to guide you through that workshop. And one of the workshops very early in the book is reverse engineering that first meeting.
Mm.
Before we talk about questions we're going to ask, information we're going to share, we need to define what success is. So it was a great first meeting if we accomplished what? So we
Mm.
need to define the outcomes that would make for a great first meeting. And there's a download in the book that lays out all of these potential outcomes that you could have for that first meeting.
Mhm.
Then once you define those outcomes, then the conversation turns to how will I achieve each one of those outcomes? And what are the tools we have? The questions we ask, the information we share verbally and visually, and the actions we take before, during, and after that meeting. So now let's come back to what I said before. What questions are we going to ask? Only the ones tied to the outcomes we've identified.
Mm.
What information are we going to share? Only the information that's tied to the outcomes that we've identified. So now it becomes almost like a fixed project plan for that first meeting.
Mm. I think that is one of the things that salespeople struggle with specifically is they're not really good at articulating the possible outcomes to the client and giving a choice for those outcomes to say, if you wanted to move forward today, I wouldn't stop you. So what should we do? Or you know what, if you want to tell me no, I'll still be your friend. Yeah, would you like to tell me no, and I'll still be your friend? No, no, I want to get the job. I want to use you guys. Okay, good. And then, the other things like that. I mean, it's one of the hardest things I think it is to teach a salesperson. I know it sounds very simple, but most salespeople go into a sale thinking there's only one outcome, yes. And then they're devastated when it's not the yes. Does that
Right.
could you talk a little bit about that, about the expectation or the uh, pushing your mind, like you've already assumed that people are going to do this, and then the letdown and the devastation that occurs but to your self-esteem in a way because of that, just a little bit, and then I want to get back to the
Yeah.
work here again, but go ahead and just tell us a little bit more about that, because I think you're pretty much I think you'd be somebody who could really speak clearly on that.
Yeah. And one of the things that causes that is qualifying deals. That if you come back to the most precious resource every salesperson has, it's true actually for everybody, it's time, how
Hmm.
we invest that time. So when we look at deal pursuits, we get so many minutes in the day. So we need to make sure we're going after the right ones. Well, what are the right ones? The ones that have the greatest chance of coming to fruition. So you probably think I'm talking about an ideal file. And I think that's the worst thing you could ever give a salesperson. And here's why. An ideal client profile says if all the stars were to align, this is the kind of business we'd love to have. It's like a lottery ticket. It's a one in a gazillion chance that you're going to find one of those,
Hmm.
right? If you look up the word ideal in the dictionary, you'll see the expression existing only in your mind. Like sales isn't hard enough. Now I got to have something that's only in my head. Not helpful.
That's funny. Yeah, I get
What
that.
every salesperson does need, Joe, is a target client profile. That's not me wordsmithing, it's a totally different concept. This is a tool that defines who perceive the most meaningful value in what we offer, which gives deals the greatest likelihood of coming to fruition. So there's a chapter in the book that takes you through the development of a target client profile. And again, there's a download workshop that the book guides you through. But once you put this together, it's a 12 components profile that now becomes a benchmarking tool. So we talk about qualifying. Now you have something to qualify against and
Mm,
determine. The first meeting for me is always the determination if I'm going to keep going after this or not. I'm looking to qualify because, like I said, time is our most precious commodity. So I'm using that tool to determine, am I going to go further with this or am I going to be done? And
mm,
this is a conversation I have way too frequently, and I'm sure you do as well, where you'll hear about these deal pursuits that didn't end the way the salesperson wanted it to go. And they'll say, we lost the deal finish line. And after they take me through it, I'll say, you didn't lose the deal. I say, what do you mean? Well, we didn't win it. I'm like, I agree you didn't win it, but you didn't lose it.
mm,
You were never a viable option. You were never in the game. And you
mm.
could have learned that in the first 15 minutes of the first meeting if you had that profile, if you had that tool, the tool built and asked questions to qualify that opportunity, you would have learned this information instead of investing hours, days, weeks, months, getting everybody involved and all that. You could have learned it in 15 minutes and gone after the right opportunities that had the greater likelihood of coming to fruition.
I think it brings up one of the most rarely used tools by any salesperson, which is the ability to listen. How important is listening in that element of those considerations of of not the ideal client, but the client avatar or profile, like you mentioned, to see, is this fitting into that profile that somebody I'm going to be successful with? How important is it the ability to listen, not talk? Um, Talk less and listen more.
It's funny. There are a lot of folks out there that say listening is the most important sales skill. I disagree.
Mm,
The most important sales skill is the art of asking thoughtful, insightful questions. So there's something meaningful to listen to. See, if we're
mm.
not adept at asking questions that engage emotion, that open up doors for them to share information with us, there's nothing to listen to. So
That's a good.
step
That's a good.
one is crafting the right questions.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because if we ask a question that provides information to us that
Right.
we're motivated to listen to, we will listen. So sometimes
That's
we
right.
set ourselves up like to say listen, and then we go ho hum ourselves. Like it's not just the client who gets starts yawning, but sometimes if we don't ask the right question, we can begin yawning. That's a really good point there. Yes, the first time I've ever, you may have hit something for the first time I've ever heard it. That's a
Well,
great.
thank you.
That's a great point there. That's a great ask a great question and you'll get an answer that's very interesting.
And
Uh,
I'm done. You got
like,
your one thing. I'm done. I'm out.
you know what? I think I just got that. I'm going to put that on my social media and scream it from the because I think that's it. Ask the right question. You'll get something you'll become a better listener because you now have
Right.
something you're interested in listening to, and not something that just it gets shotgunned out there that you're expected to listen to everything. That's a really great takeaway. If people only get, this is gonna that's gonna have to be the Facebook reel we use on this one or whatnot type of thing on the cut there. That's great.
Sounds good.
Good. Well, Lee, we're kind of I'm not running out of time. We got
Oh
a
my
few
gosh.
minutes
Time
here.
flew.
You are. It has. It's. Yeah, I've learned so much from you already today on this the sales on the first meeting differentiator. Uh, and when you talk about the stories, go back about sharing the stories and stuff like that. Is it a story that has to be a library of stories is a great idea and to keep track of those. But what about sometimes you could tell a story that would project a problem, how the problem would affect the prospect or something like that. And I sometimes do that it's not necessarily a fact or it hasn't happened yet, but I'll just say like, my greatest fear is this, and then I'll tell a story about what could happen. Does the story has to be factual or something that has already happened for sure?
No,
Or
no, it doesn't have to be factual. It can be just emotive. Because what we're trying to do, the key with coming back to this whole emotion conversation, if you want them to do something, they need to feel something.
Mhm.
So, Joe, exactly what you're describing is perfect. because you're arousing emotion, which motivates them to take action. And that's what we're looking for.
Mm.
If all we're having is logic conversation, fact-based conversation, the energy to get them to go do something about it.
Well, that is right. That's it's exactly what I believe in. I think that we actually created a new pricing app, and part of it is like here's the problem, but here's the emotional impact. And of course, we're leaving it. We have some words there, but we're leaving it to you to use those words to fill it in yourself. It's just a way to prompt you to say something like that type of thing. Now, it's one of the hardest things to teach, though, isn't it, Lee? In a way, you're asking people to change themselves and I feel that the emotional element or the emotional contribution you give your client is one of the hardest things to teach, isn't it? How do you take somebody who is they've kind of numbed themselves to reduce the amount of emotions because they don't want to feel let down so much in sales? How do you re-engage those emotions so the person can do that? That's a hard thing to do. Tell me about how you can transform somebody who has numbed themselves and shut themselves down into somebody who's an emotional being to restore that emotional element in their life.
Well, the good news is my experience has been the complete opposite because salespeople are really curious about because they've all heard that expression people buy based on emotion, justify decisions with logic, and no one taught them how to do it. So my experience has been they're extremely receptive in learning framework and being able to add that to their selling. Because what do they all want? They want to sell more, make more money. And if this is a vehicle, a way for them to sell more, they're all ears.
Well, here's the thing about it, though. I do agree. I think there is a lot of interest in it. However, I think when they do it, it's like you're writing left-handed, or it's like because what's your
Yeah.
advice to somebody who tries this? And because I want to make sure that they read this entire book because I think
Yes.
it's an amazing. I think this is an amazing. This is your best work yet, honestly.
Oh, thank you.
I love everything you've written so far. Lee has written. Look at all the books behind him. His right hand shoulder. He's got a lot of books. But this one to me is gets right to the chase and will make I think the biggest difference of all the books you've written because it does create right down and it's everything that we all hope to do. But there's no but really. And I think it's what's your advice for somebody who is attempting to make this shift from complete technical or logical to the emotional element but it's difficult and they feel awkward and they feel uneasy and
Sure.
they've never done it before. They've never done experienced it before. Tell us
That's
about
right. Yeah. So there's a couple of things. One is feel comfortable feeling uncomfortable. I don't know who first coined that expression, but you got to be okay with that because it's learning something new. And if you've played a sport before and you worked with a coach who adjusted your swing, if you were a golfer or a baseball player, if you're a pitcher and had your mechanics adjusted, it didn't feel like you for a while.
hmm
But eventually you did it enough and you practiced before you went in the game. So if you're a baseball fan and today you're being taught a curveball, you don't go into the championship game and say, "Hey, let me try out this little curveball." Well, you haven't practiced it yet. So find friends, find colleagues, and practice these new skills. Like we talked about crafting these emotive questions and get feedback internally and get yourself to a point where you say, okay, I can go do this in the field.
hmm
And you do it in the field. And just like with that curveball, maybe you gave him a base hit the first time. Okay, all right, I got to make an adjustment. You ask the question, it didn't land exactly right. Okay, you make some adjustment, and then you come back and you try it again.
Yeah,
There's a title, Joe, in the sales world that no one can give you, and that's sales professional.
mm,
It's a
that's
title that's earned by doing something every single day to improve your knowledge and your skills, just like an athlete does.
like batting practice in a way. Just get in there
Yeah.
and practice. You can't hit the curveball. You don't get better at hitting curveballs by not by own by stop. Don't throw me in a curveballs guy. I can't hit them. It's like
You can't say that.
you're only gonna get better if you throw only curveballs for batting practice, so I can make sure I get used to what that looks like and what it feels like to hit that a couple foul tips and then dribble it back to the pitcher and then oh my
Right.
god, got a single to right field. It worked. So that's it. And then as a good coach, like there's a lot of people who may be sales managers out there or service
Yeah.
managers who are listening to this thing. how could what advice would you give them to support that practice, like you're saying? Because sometimes it's like, here's your next call, here's your next call, and
Yeah.
sometimes they think that I gave him all these calls and he burned through all these calls, but they never did something that you just. I'm just trying to set this up for you,
Yeah.
the right way. But what does a sales manager or leader have to do to make sure we foster that environment to do what you just said about
Yes.
the practicing? Tell us about that there.
You have to create a safe environment that they feel comfortable being vulnerable. And I'm trying something new, I'm gonna screw it up. If they feel like the spotlight is on them, like they're gonna get nothing but criticism, and there's an art to giving feedback, and hopefully the sales managers listening here have received some counsel there. We talked about my boys with college baseball. There's a former major league pitcher, he's a closer, heck of a pitcher.
Hmm.
And I took my boys to a lesson with them when they were, what were they? Probably 10 or 11 years old. They were good players. Like I said, they went on to play college baseball. And they had the lesson once. Never
Hmm.
wanted to go back to this guy again. And I went to the lesson and I was just sitting, on the side. And after the lesson, I said to him, "So how'd it go?" "Oh, they got to fix this. They didn't do this right. They didn't do that right." And the boys heard all this. And it was nothing but criticism, nothing
Hmm.
but negative. Like, yeah, I don't want to go back to him again.
Mm.
And I'm sure he
Interesting.
knew his stuff, but how he gave that feedback was such a turnoff. They just had no interest in going back. And again, they were good ball players. They were all-star players. They were traveling players, top players on their teams. And all he had to say was, they didn't do this right. They didn't do that right. So if that's what you're doing with your salespeople, they're not going to want to practice with you. So you have to create that environment where they feel comfortable being vulnerable, knowing, and you tell them up front, I know you haven't done this before. That's okay. We're all going to learn together.
Mm. It's like I can see I see in the approach that you use, Lee, is a lot of optimism. With today's world, with AI encroaching to threaten to take all the jobs from everybody, and there could be
Right.
a lot of things out here to be negative about it.
Yep.
How important is it that it's required optimism being required by people in today's world? Tell us a little bit about your view of the future, because I know you're also a student of the past and things mistakes we've made, but also in a way
Yep.
framing what we could do better in a way, as opposed to talking about the bad part, talking about the better thing we could do. Tell
Yeah.
us about what are you optimistic about over the next, like, say, 5 years you see happening here? It's 2025 right now, maybe up to 2030. What do you think?
Yeah.
What are you optimistic in seeing that will be different in the sales world coming forward?
Well, let me touch upon the first thing you mentioned. I believe in your head, what's in your head is what you become. So if your head's not right, meaning you're in a bad place, if you start your day by putting on the news, not exactly setting yourself up for a great day. To
No.
understand the motivation of
Mhm.
these news channels. They want your eyeballs. They want to keep you watching all day long. They're
Mhm.
not trying to give you some quick information, so in and out in a minute. They want to keep you watching all day long, and all they want to do is pull you into this negativity. You can't allow yourself to go there. You need to
Mhm.
wake up every morning optimistic, positive. My sister has a great thing that she recommends. Wake up every morning and write down 3 things that you're happy about.
Mm.
3 things that you're happy. Maybe it's your health. Maybe it's the love of your pet. It whatever it is. Maybe your crushing quota, whatever it is. 3 things just to get yourself on that positive, optimistic side right out of the bed. And we can all come up with 3 things. Easy. You'll probably come up with 50.
It,
Having that right mindset, super important. Now,
you know,
where are things gonna go over the next few years? It's gonna keep evolving. When the internet came along, they said salespeople are going away because 'cause they're the internet. Well, here we still are. AI comes along, salespeople are gonna go away. Now, the ones that don't add value, they are gonna go away. If I can have the same experience going on a website or reading a catalog, I don't need you. So back to what I said before of the title no one can give you is sales professional. You got to do something every single day to make yourself more valuable to your prospects and clients tomorrow. And you don't have to worry about the internet. You don't have to worry about AI taking your job away because you're providing something that those things cannot.
Hmm. Well, that's some great advice, Lee. I think we're going to leave it on that. Is there any final thoughts you want to give our viewers today? And don't forget, the book is called The First Meeting Differentiator by Lee Salz. It's on, you can get it on Amazon, and there's a lot of great downloads and other tools that Lee has given us so generously at no additional cost. But this book is an investment in yourself, and I highly recommend that every salesperson that I know, if you know me and you are listening to this thing because I'm hosting Lee, I highly recommend it because it will take the things that I believe in that I've already taught and enhance it to a much greater degree. And so, Lee, again, first of all, thank you. Any final words you
Thank you.
want to share with our
I
listeners?
do.
Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Regardless of where you buy the book, and it's available wherever you like to buy books, Amazon obviously being the largest one. After you do, go to firstmeetingbook.com, firstmeetingbook.com, and sign up for the bonus. I'm delivering 3 private master classes only for those who purchased the book.
Firstmeetingbook.com.
Firstmeetingbook.com. So after you buy it, go to that website, sign up for the bonus. I'm going to be delivering 3 private master classes based on the book to help you implement what you've read.
Wow, how generously. Again, every time I do an interview with this, I think it's my second one, but every
Yeah,
time I do one, I always leave saying I got to spend more time with you. I don't know what it is about that,
I
but
appreciate that.
that
Imagine having a first meeting and your prospect feeling that way about you.
I can't even.
That's what the first meeting differentiator is going to teach you.
I am going to devour the rest of this book today, and I'm going to put
Thank you.
this book into practice, and I'll give you my report about what happened. How's that sound, Lee?
I love it. I love it.
I'll give you my full book report on what happened when I did it, and then I'll make a video and everything and just show you what it is. Because honestly, I believe in everything this book has to offer, and I think it is an important material because it takes those things that we always believe, it gives you the roadmap to put it into action. So, Lee,
Right.
thanks a lot for being here again, and thanks for being a good friend as well. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate the support.